relentless life is the only life worth living.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Relentless Life and podcast number 4, where there's a special treat today with a special guest. Part 2, only because I messed up part 1, and he was generous enough to come back, and we're going to reshoot this and do it all over again. This time it's going to be a little bit more raw, because now we just know that we're going to expect me to screw up again, but we'll still have some fun. Scott Poe, he owns a business called Poetic Fitness, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about his background, his vegan life, and all this other good stuff that he's got to talk about in fitness and lifestyle and going through COVID and how he's handled that as well. Scott, thanks for coming back again.
Thank you for having me back. It's good to be back.
Yeah. It seems like just like last week you were here.
It seems like that. If it was any longer, then it must have been 2020. But yeah. I know it was this year.
So tell me a little bit about 2020. I know a lot of what you did when your business started off was during this time of COVID, and so you didn't get a lot of like traditional beginning avenues of training that most of us did when we started our fitness company. You were right into COVID and online. So what was that like?
I mean, I never even got a chance to see what it was like to have to try and go out and find any clients, because right as I decided to do it, got my business started, got my name, got all my cards and everything, and then started to advertise, everybody started socially distancing and this whole thing happened. So I pretty much had to immediately start going to Facebook and places like that where I could just put my name out there and hope that someone was looking. And luckily I was able to get one client who actually, that client was the one that suggested we do it via Zoom. And as we did it, I was like, man, this could either be like the new thing in fitness or the new way we're going to have to do it. But either way, I can jump on this and roll with it and save people time and money. So it was kind of forced into it, and now it's sort of a way of life for me, at least. Just because the clients I've had for the whole year, they've stuck with me, and as I've gotten more, no one's left, and we've been able to keep doing this. It's convenient for everyone, so you don't have to drive anywhere. You don't have to plan on meeting in some field. You don't have to go to the gym. You can just start right there in your living room. So it was more an accident. I don't know if, or it just was the way that it had to happen. These people wanted to work out, but yet it was like, well, how are we going to do it? And they had this, actually we did it through Cisco meetings, but I had so many other people that did Zoom. I was like, well, I'm going to go with Zoom because it seems like that's the most popular of the little web meetings, I guess. Call them workout meetings now, I guess.
Yeah. So you don't use Zoom, you actually use Cisco.
What's that?
You don't use Zoom, actually. You're using Cisco. Or Cisco.
I do. I use them both, but I just have one client that I do on the Cisco because they actually send me the invite, but all my other clients I do through Zoom just because it's the platform I use. They have like a membership or whatever they pay because it's a little boy, his dad must use it for work or something like that. I see. So they just had it, but it's kind of cool. Both pretty much the same thing. They pretty much do the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. Just fun on Cisco. Depending on your computer, you can like change the background and you can be at the beach or whatever. It's kind of fun.
Oh, that's nice. I think Zoom has like real basic features similar to that, but not as advanced, of course.
And whenever I try and do it on my MacBook, it says your computer won't support this, so I just give up.
So now, are all of your clients? They're all online right now then?
Yeah, every single one of them. We do everything through Zoom, so it's kind of awesome. It's kind of perfect. And other than a few friends I work out with, I was able to meet these people through the internet, which is cool. Just getting my word out, having other people, or getting my name out, having other people share my information. Just hoping. It's just so hard to advertise when you can't really get out and do it. You have to hope you get on the right website or on the right advertisement, or you just get lucky. And I remember when we were talking, the first year is probably always the hardest, just trying to get established. And then I get hit right in the mouth with this pandemic. So
Yeah.
it made it tough. It made it tough, but I think I like it. It's just difficult. There's a lot of things you can lose in the video feed, where it's already hard enough to get somebody to understand what you're saying when you're training them in person. So in the video, not only do you lose perception, from the angles, but it just makes it a little tougher communication. They don't always have a microphone, so sometimes I can't hear what they're saying, and I'm having them repeat themselves because through a little mic on their laptop or phone, whatever they're using. I'm sure it's harder on their end. Me, I've got the big TV and I can see everything they're doing, but that's just so that I could help me see their form, help me help them.
Sure. Yeah, and that's a big question I have, because that's something I have no experience in whatsoever. I mean, obviously live workouts are a lot different than, a back and forth interaction video style when you're actually trying to correct form and do personal training workouts. So, some of those pitfalls of communication, what did you do to get around that, to make that easier on yourself?
At first, I would have backups, because I'd say, well, I know this is going to be hard to explain through this. So I would have a backup move, and depending on the person, the younger kids, it's harder for them to understand or really get the cues I'm giving them. So I always had a backup, but it's still, there's no real easy way, because as you know, when you're standing in front of people, you can literally be explaining something you think sounds perfect and they're not really applying it. So you have to move them a little. On the video, it makes it a lot harder. So if we're doing a timed workout or something like that, the anxiety of not wanting to lose any of the movements kicks in, but you just try your best to really give them as many verbal cues as you can, because you'll lose a lot on the video, I think. Just the angles are so hard to see. I'm looking at myself doing moves sometimes and I can't fully. I'm like, all right, well, I see that they don't, or my black shirt matches in with the background, or your socks, or, I'm like, well, you can't see my foot really, but my heel's off the ground, or whatever it is. You have to constantly be talking. So it's over before you know it, but you just have to completely keep communicating and just hope that they actually get it. And that's not saying that they don't understand. It's hard, in my opinion, through the camera to really get that perception. You just lose a lot.
Mm-hmm. Now there's some things too that, one of the good things that I enjoyed on the interaction of personal training, the one-on-one when they're in the gym with you, is that they can feed off of your energy. And sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad, because if they come in with low energy, that can drain you if you went one client after another. So there's a side of me that wonders if I know it's exhausting to do the video workouts, but what's the camaraderie energy like when you're actually doing training with clients, just going through the video base like this?
I think it's fun because you can set a pace for them. So just like if they're watching a video, they see it, they sort of try and keep with that. But if I notice they're keeping up with me or whatever it is, I can say, hey, go faster, or I don't want you going faster. This needs to be a controlled move. But it seems like, depending on who it is, what their age is, like the kids, they want to compete. So if we're doing kickboxing, like we got zombies coming from all angles, you can really motivate them to play on their childishness, if you will, and they get excited for that. Where when it's adults, you just have to kind of keep motivating them, or you just hope you say the right thing that gives them that boost, keep them breathing right now. It's tough, you always have to. I feed some of the videos that I used to do that you did, for example. I hold on to some of the things that you might have said that helped me understand a move, that I can say, all right, that makes sense. I'm going to say this to them. But it's exciting to try and get them to keep up with you if they can get the move.
One of the things you mentioned that I find interesting, because I think it's part of fitness that a lot of adults struggle with. And, I know with your videos and the way you've always worked out, you've kept you've kept a childish energy, and this is all in good compliment, but you were able to kind of work out like a kid. And to me, that's where I think adults struggle with, because they can't bring it back and have the fun like a child can, to say, hey, there's zombies all over the place. Are you able to get some adults to kind of relax after a long day of work to sort of be childish and enjoy the workouts, or are most of them just sort of like business as usual? Let's go in and let's get this workout done because I want to get it over with.
I definitely am. I always try and start as soon as I click accept or whatever. When it starts, I'm always trying to do something silly. When it's the kids, I'm like, this one kid, he can never see me. I'm like, all right, you ready? And he's like, you're not invisible, and it's hilarious because I mess with him. So it gets him hyped up, and all the adults, depending on what's going on. I'm always just trying to be silly with them. That's just my approach to life anyways, but I think it helps loosen them up, and then they tend to be a little silly too. I'm lucky enough to have some of my clients that are people maybe I've known for a little bit, or a few of them are friends of friends that I maybe met through them. The hardest part, I'd say, is as the day progresses, once you're worn out and you're like, all right, I got to get motivated, and I've maybe done 6-7 workouts at this point, because on the Zoom, you don't want to just sit here and like, okay, well, that looks pretty good, and you're just peeking at them. You kind of want to be a part of it, or it just seems weird. It's like, all right, yep, now just move over that way, slide. So I'm always trying to get out there and be active with them. But as the day progresses, I really have to work on keeping myself motivated, because there's times where I'm exhausted. I'm like, oh my God, I got to just take a deep breath and try and get the blood flowing so that they don't see the tiredness. You don't want to look lethargic and then have these people that you want to be pushing and really working hard. So, that is the hardest part. Me personally, morning person, I've gotten most of my clients early in the day. Luckily, I have some kids in the afternoon. None of the adults are afternoons, so I'm able to get all of them in early in the morning. At least by 10, they're knocked out. I'm thankful for that, because I don't want to work out in the afternoon. I know some people have to, and I'm jealous of the fact that they're able to do that, because as the day progresses, the less I want to do, truly. And I know that most people feel that way, I'm sure, especially if they're working a full-time job. Get off work, the last thing you want to do is go put on your gear and work out.
Yeah, would you suggest for adults who are wondering like what time of day they should work out, are you suggesting it's better to go in the morning?
It seems to be better for me. It helps me through my whole day. It gives me energy. It gets me moving. If you're sitting at a desk and you can get your energy levels up early, and those endorphins, I feel like it helps you through the day. You don't get as tired. You don't feel like you're going to pass out at your desk. Or if you're out working at a moving company sometimes, or doing construction, you at least are loosened up, warmed up, and you're not going to get injured doing any of that manual labor. But I would always suggest early, mainly because I like it. But I don't know. Obviously, I don't think there's any reason you can't work out in the afternoons. It just seems to be better for me. But I know that with fitness, it has to fit into your lifestyle. You have to find a time for it. So
right.
I think that's the hardest part, is people finding the time to do it that works for them, where they can consistently do it, and it's not going to be like a fight for them to make it happen.
Yeah. So those who are listening, kind of like hearing what you're talking about on the online training, and probably are wondering, like, how difficult is it on their end to sort of fire it up, go on Zoom, and then start training with you? What are the hoops they have to jump through in order to start working out with you?
They just have to have space, because it's easy. I think it's just the hardest part's going to be them being able to see me. Looking at a laptop, or if it's your phone, you may not be able to see what I'm doing as good. If your signal's not great, it may be choppy. And of course, I don't know what they see on their end, so I hope that I can get feedback from them. There's definitely some kinks that I think could be worked out. If I could have every person get a microphone or something where it would be easier to communicate, they could hear me better, I could hear them better. I think that would help everyone in the long run. But hardest part, having equipment, finding the place to do it. Actually, 3 of my clients, just strictly body weight, because they have no equipment at home.
Yeah.
All the dumbbells in the entire country and world were sold out as soon as the pandemic hit, so nobody could get any equipment or anything. And so I'm like getting them to grab animals and stuff to hold on to. So I think it's just a matter of having a few things to get ready in the mindset, and that's all you need. I mean, it's Zoom. It's as easy as turning that thing on and working out. You just have to be able to deal with the little annoying things like being able to see, being able to hear. Once you can get past that, I think it's fun. And you can record every single workout, so you can go back, watch yourself, compare yourself to me. If you're like, oh, I felt like he kept telling me to do something with my form, I wasn't getting it. Go back and look at it, watch it, and you can kind of compare yourself if you don't have a mirror right there in front of you. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it's actually pretty great.
Yeah, the videoing part it's a huge benefit, I think, that they can go back to. Whereas, I didn't record my workouts when I had personal training coming in. I mean, that was unheard of, really. I mean, if you wanted to see recorded video, you would just go online and watch those. So that's a great benefit. And also the fact that if you're at home, it doesn't sound like you need a lot of space. And if you don't even need equipment, I mean, you even mentioned you can grab your little furball cat and maybe just do presses with the cat. Maybe that's a safety thing, but who knows? Something like that along the lines. I don't know, cans of soup. There's always a way to get it done.
There's plenty you can grab. I mean, that's the thing, you just got to be resourceful. But with the fact there's so much you can do with body weight, I think a lot of people that maybe haven't been in fitness long, they don't really know, or they take for granted how much they can do without anything.
Right.
Just the fact that, I mean, they're their own gym right there. You just have to be creative or find someone that can help you be creative.
Sure.
But I mean, the Zoom's been awesome, in my opinion. I don't have anything else to go by, so other than what I've seen. But it's just trying to figure out ways to get people to understand and know what you're trying to tell them, just like you would in person. You can't touch them. You can't help them get situated.
And that's an interesting point that you said. You don't really know anything else in this industry other than what you've been thrown into during COVID. So you're sort of an online training pioneer, because I think a lot of what fitness is going to be the online. And I think as much as the gyms and even other personal trainers would kick and scream years ago, I kind of saw it going down that direction. COVID really expedited that process. Whether you liked it or not, now I'm seeing big gyms offering online training for all places. Like, instead of bringing them into the gym, it's like, hey, you can do this online now. And, it's kind of puts you in a huge advantage from what I can see, because you've been able to see this, with all four legs from the start.
For sure. Definitely. And now I think the hardest part is just getting your name out there and trying to be able to find the people that are searching, these big gyms. It's easy because somebody can just look up gym and Planet Fitness pops up, but it's harder to get the little guy out there. So you rely on word of mouth a lot. At least I have.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest obstacle, is just getting your name out there.
Especially those like starting off, in this industry. And I would argue that the ones that are privately owned are usually the ones you're going to find some of the best training, because they're going to give you a lot of attention. One of the problems with big box gyms when they have trainers, they're not bad trainers. They usually just get overloaded with clients. Oftentimes are given false promises by sales reps, and now they're thrown into this personal trainer's schedule, and that person's doing 11, 12, sometimes 13 clients a day. So they're just overwhelmed with work for the most part. And I'm speaking from experience, because I've worked a few big box gyms, and you don't have the time to dedicate yourself when you're doing one session after another. And it wasn't until I went on my own where I was able to literally specialize in specific types of clients that I wanted to focus on and give all my attention. So if you can find somebody who's private, you can find somebody who specializes in something, to me, that's my recommendation. And I know I've known you for years now, and I know your style, and I also know how effective you can be when it comes to motivating people.
I mean, that's the hardest part, just to get people excited to do it. You kind of got to trick them into it, like I tricked myself into it. Got to have fun with it.
Yeah, if you're not having fun, you're probably not going to get too many results in the long run, or you're eventually going to get burned out and quit.
That's right.
And this is around the time, because we're in mid-January now that we're shooting this podcast. And usually it becomes like the downslope. The end of January, early February, you start to see those numbers drop as far as the New Year's resolution cats. And the intention is good, but a lot of times it's because they've started on the wrong program or with maybe the wrong personal trainer or just the wrong direction. And, a lot of times what I'll see is that they can probably develop a habit, but usually a lot of them will jump in too quickly and get injured. That's another benefit of having somebody like Scott on your side, keeping you from doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that, even when I, ages ago, would be it like when I went to culinary school or I'm doing something where I don't have time to work out all the time, then I'm like, oh man, I got to get into this. You look to something like one of those 2-month videos or whatever, and everything they're doing is plyo and HIIT for 2 straight months, and then you tear your body up and break yourself down so much that you do get injured. You try and do something basic and you tweak something because you just overworked.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's if people could get into it from New Year's resolution's a New Year's resolution, but if you get into it, you stick with it, you don't kill yourself from the beginning. You're always confusing, always changing and always adapting. Then it may be more fun when you don't get taken out of the game because you hurt your knee walking down the stairs with too many groceries because you were doing insanity or something for the second straight time through, and
right.
Your body just couldn't handle it. I mean, we like to push, but sometimes too much of one thing will overload those joints. I did the insanity once, and I felt like I couldn't walk for at least a month after because my knees hurt so bad because it's just so much jumping. You don't ever get to take a break in between.
Yeah. I think that's what people don't understand with the HIIT stuff. Yeah. I mean, jumping's okay, but you certainly don't have to jump and hop around to get the heart rate up. And I've seen a lot of your workouts where the heart rate's going up. I've done your workouts and my heart rate goes up and I'm sitting on the floor, if that makes sense.
Sure.
You have some of the craziest core moves I've ever done. In fact, some of your core exercises by far are still the best on YouTube.
Hey, again, I know I'm not trying to deflect, but a lot of what I picked up or tried to learn, I tried to adapt from what I got from you, or I would say that's a great idea and I try and play off that. But I really like core a lot. So a lot of that stuff, I just try and get real creative. It's fun for me. I'm like, when it's like, oh, it's core day, that's fun because it's kind of like a relaxed day, where some other people, it kills them. You put me on some biceps, my arms are dead, but with core, it's just Energizer Bunny. I don't know why. I just like it. It's fun.
For those of you who are just listening and can't actually see Scott is actually ripped. So the reason why he likes core is that he's got not a 6-pack. I would have to say it's more like an 8-pack. So yeah, he enjoys core. He's really good at it too. I want to back up for a second though, because about 2 minutes ago you mentioned culinary school. That's something that I didn't really know about you. So can you explain that?
Yeah, I could explain that. I grew up around food. My mom had a catering business. My mom always cooked. So when I went to get my first job, all right, let's back up a little. I started cooking when I was like 2, 3, 4 years old, messing around in the kitchen with my mom. But I started going to catering events when I was about 7. I was cooking hush puppies at a barbecue, splash oil.
Wait, hold on. Hold back up for a second.
I was trying to cook,
Wait. You're cooking hush puppies?
Yep.
Okay, so anybody who knows you, and I, like at this point, I think people are getting to know you, but I know you well, and to hear you say that, being a vegan, and I know you're like how strict your nutrition is, it's kind of refreshing to hear you say hush puppies. I'm sorry. Go on. I had to kind of dissect that a little bit.
No, I mean, that's the thing. That's that good Southern cooking. I loved it. I learned a lot about even just a hush puppy in general and how they actually became. But burnt myself on the face when I was in 7th grade, got a picture, school photo with a little burn on my nose from that fryer oil. And, the whole point there was I grew up around cooking. So when it came time to decide what I wanted to do, I was like, well, I know how to cook. I might as well go to culinary school. So when I went, it wasn't a passion. It wasn't something I was into that, like you see these people, it really is their passion, and they work hard at it, and they keep learning more and more about it. That just wasn't my thing. I just knew how to cook. So I thought, go to culinary school, get certified, and start a restaurant. Mm-hmm. So I went to culinary school, Florida, West Palm Beach. Nice. It was awesome. Beautiful down there.
Yeah.
And when I came back, I started a catering business. Well, within 1 year of my business, Hayden was born, and we hadn't really established ourselves yet, and I needed to have a constant paycheck. So I gave up on the catering business and just started working at some high-end restaurants around the area. So the culinary school was just something I kind of felt like I had to do. It was a cool experience, and I learned a lot. I was able to hone a lot of skills that I didn't realize were skills until I stood there and watched people that were kind of walking in with no education at all. So I took for granted what I already knew. It was fun, and I learned that I 100% despise baking. There's too many rules. I don't do good with rules, and with baking, you got to follow the rules or you ruin it. With everything else, you can experiment, you can change it and tweak it to whatever you think is going to be good. But it was a unique experience, and I appreciated every bit of it. But at this point, I'm not using my culinary degree or anything, just because that industry was very tough, very hard industry to succeed in, and especially when you're starting it from the bottom and you just had a child. So that made it really.
Yeah, and one of the other things I think a lot of people don't realize when they just want to jump in and start their own business is that there's a lot of sacrifice that oftentimes keep people from actually succeeding at it, because you can't just jump in without money and expect things to just sort of like work out. Even if you have a lot of business or a lot of clients, there's a loss that you're taking the first year or two. And especially with like the food industry, you're probably taking a loss almost every year for the first 5 years. And that was a prime example to me. I didn't know a lot about that until recently, where there were some small businesses, certainly restaurants in Chicago, where you didn't realize how close they were and how little margin they had month to month. So shutting down for a month literally put some of these restaurants out of business forever. And we're talking restaurants that have been open for like almost 100 years.
Exactly. It's crazy. You can crush a restaurant quick.
So
the shutdowns, unfortunately, we're losing a lot of restaurants.
Yeah, it's really sad on another level. Chicago was known for its, probably its culinary artistic masterpiece of restaurants. Like a lot of the culinary artists would go there to start their career, and then they would branch out from Chicago. I think that's one of the reasons why there were so many rich entrepreneurs or restaurateurs around there with all different types of styles. And then this sort of closed those doors. So it's kind of sad to see it. I'm hopeful that some of them will come back, but I'm more realistic to think that the majority of them are not going to pay the rent in the taxes that Chicago crushes them with. And certainly during this pandemic, it was a kind of an eye-opener to a lot of business owners where they're like, why stay here if I can go somewhere else, save on taxes, and a lot less overhead?
For sure. Definitely. And I mean, I've even seen a couple businesses, crazy enough, that started during all this. I don't even know how they were able to do it. I mean, I can't think of any specific ones, but there's like this one in New York. Guys like, we just hoped people would be here to back us up, because we're here for them. And I mean, they're successful, but I know it's got to be tough with all these rules, and you're losing so much.
So with your culinary training, was there any help for you to like go to this vegan lifestyle, and like what did your culinary skills, or how did your culinary skills help you to develop that in being as strict as you are? with being a vegan? Because there's a couple of vegan lifestyles. You can be a lazy vegan and overweight, out of shape, and with poor nutrition, even staying strictly vegan, technically. And then you can be, on your end, 100% militant, almost strict vegan, and still have a good lifestyle. So that has to have something to do with your culinary skills, doesn't it?
I would say the culinary end is, okay, my dad being a hunter, and me growing up hunting and fishing as a kid, being a young kid, and, cutting animals up and seeing it in that state.
Sure.
It either gets you or it doesn't.
Yeah.
And then going to school and fabricating animals, taking an alligator, cutting it from a full alligator, cutting it up into a bunch of pieces, or a chicken.
Wait, you guys dissected an alligator?
What's that?
You guys dissected an alligator?
We cut up alligators, everything you could imagine, every animal you could think of in Florida, because it was always Chef. You remember Yan Can Cook?
Yeah.
Chef Martin Yan came in and he fabricated an alligator. In, I think it was like 48 seconds. He cut this entire thing up. It was crazy.
Oh my goodness.
It wasn't the Gators mascot.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Go UF. But yeah, I'm sure you enjoyed cutting that up.
But I'll tell you what it was that. It was that hands-on. It was that connection between, I don't know, I put too much life in there. I saw the connection between like a person and this thing, and something in my head flipped, and I was like, it just turned me off. I'll say cutting the animals up turned me off, and it gave me a respect for them further than what I ever thought. It grossed me out just seeing them raw like that. And I don't know. I mean, it's hard not to put a horror movie like feeling to it, but it's like cutting up a chicken is just as easy to cut up a person. You don't need a chainsaw. You can cut right between the joints and I'm like, I can't do it. It just messed with my head too much. Just thinking. And chicken, once I got to really mess with that in its raw state a bunch, turned me off so bad, because raw chicken is one of the grossest things I've ever dealt with. So culinary school kind of made me not want to eat animals. I kind of went vegetarian, so I'd say from like 2001 till about 6 years ago, I was vegetarian, and then made the step to vegan, which I think was just really hard because I relied on cheese, I relied on eggs, not realizing that I didn't really need that stuff. I mean, it's definitely hard to get your protein. It's made it tough, but I mean, I appreciate it. And again, yeah, you can be a fat, overweight, lazy vegan, because these days you can just go hit the sweets aisle and get all vegan treats.
Sure.
But it's just like you can eat meat and still be healthy. You can be vegan and still be healthy. So it's just a matter of always eating smart, right, and staying whole. And with culinary school, there's no cutting corners. They don't have processed anything. It's all fresh, everything made from scratch. So you don't even get the luxury of having junk food. When you're learning that, they're teaching you like French Laundry type stuff. And I mean, it was overwhelming and interesting. I mean, they expect a lot out of you at those schools. So it made it tough. And again, I hated baking because I think I gained 15 pounds. I lived with 2 other students from the school. So, we make everything we made, we took home. So there was three times the desserts or breads, eclairs, all that stuff. But it was fun. It was fun. I mean, I appreciated every bit of it.
So another thing, I think a misconception, especially these days with veganism, and being creative and knowing how to cook as well in your case. But if someone who doesn't know how to cook as well, what would you suggest those that are vegan, want to be vegan, or want to go a little bit more away from the meat and maybe something healthy? How do they get their protein?
To stay away from processed, you are limited to more beans, tempehs, tofus, things like that. I don't like to have soy as much if I don't have to, but it's kind of tends to be the go-to option, or at least the go-to suggestion. But you can get so much from beans, all different kinds of legumes. Now, if you do start to go down the processed area, they have tons of stuff. They have like every single thing you could think of. They replicate all meats. I don't know why. I think it's just to help you plan a meal. Otherwise it'd be like, here's this vegan thing. Well, what do I eat with it? I don't know. Oh, well, here's a vegan corn dog. Okay, well, I'm going to have this with it.
Sure.
I think it helps people structure their meals when they have it like a veggie burger. Okay, well, now I know I'm going to have burgers and fries. Not promoting burgers and fries, even though they're good. No, I'm kidding. But I think that's the hardest part, is being clever and not repeating the same thing all the time. Because I could have brown rice and tempeh every night, but I think some people might get sick of that.
Yeah.
Restaurants have gotten really, really good at being creative. I know at home it gets expensive to plan your whole meal, or if you want to have something different every night as a vegan, sometimes you have to rely on these restaurants that aren't junk food. They have a lot of places. I know in Chicago, when I went there, it was unreal how many just completely top to bottom vegan restaurants there were. Here you might find 3 or 4, but you get one restaurant that has a vegan option. Again, when you're cooking at home, I think that's the hardest part, is to keep it creative. And I just tend to go to tempeh, tofu, things like that. You can do eggplant parmesan, but you can replicate it and do like a tofu parm. You get the fake Parmesan cheese that they make, and you can be very, very creative. And I think the biggest thing is finding something that you like. Tofu is a hard thing for people to, I don't know, it's an acquired taste. It's kind of like kombucha. It's a hard thing for you to just start eating. If you've never had it before, most people are just like, that looks disgusting, tastes disgusting, and it's weird. And it's all in how you cook it. Mm-hmm. Just like anything, you can cook it 20 different ways. You just got to find the way you like it.
Well, I didn't even like the first time you introduced me to kombucha. Yeah, let's go ahead and hold that up there. we didn't disappoint this time. I got called out on my second podcast when I didn't have the kombucha, but it was one of those things where I had to reshoot. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I didn't like this the first time you introduced it to me, and I went back to it a few times. I think I told the story in the first podcast, and then before I knew it, it became a taste that I was looking forward to. I like it. It's a little acidic. I think it's good for like my stomach. It's definitely great when you fly. And I just started to crave it, and it's replaced coffee. I have coffee maybe once a month now, maybe twice a month occasionally. And I'm sort of a snob when it comes to coffee. If it's not, I used to joke about like hotel coffee. You sort of like, you crave that bad, almost metallic hotel coffee when you get there. Like that's, to me, it's a sign of being at home. But these days, the hotels just don't leave coffee these days since COVID. So I don't even have that option anymore. So usually before I even get to the hotel, or in this case today, I'm at my hometel, I get a bunch of kombucha and just store it in the fridge. So yeah. You can blame Scott on that one. He's the one who turned me on to kombucha.
It's funny. People always see me drinking it, and then they'll kind of taste on it, and they're always weirded out at first, but then they start to crave it. Next thing you know, it's an addiction, and they don't give those things away. It's not like they're cheap.
They're not cheap, no. They're especially not cheap at LAX airport, because I paid quite a bit for them, and I got 2 of them. I regretted it, but then afterwards it was worth it.
I used to drink so many of them. I started brewing my own for a while, but it just became such a process that I had to give it up, because you've got to be prepared when the next step is ready. If you're not ready to bottle it, you wait, or you can't get home, it ends up just going bad. So then you just wasted 2 weeks of brewing it.
Wait, okay, so you actually brewed your own kombucha?
I did.
Oh my goodness. What's that process like?
And I'd make all kinds of flavors. I've done everything from cherry to banana to pineapple, plain. You can do so many. I mean, it's a pretty simple process. You just have to get a Scoby, which is pretty gross looking.
What's
like a brain
Scoby?
floating in a jar.
All right, wait, okay, back up a little bit. So do you go to the store and buy this, and then you just kind of let it ferment? How does that work?
Well, so if you can get a Scoby, which you can buy from some places, or you would go get
It's called a
the
Scoby?
original brand or a Synergy. And what a Scoby is it's an acronym. So it's a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. So this Scoby starts to grow on the top layer. Like you maybe have had apple cider or vinegar or something, and you see that weird little skin layer that starts growing on top. Well, it's like a little culture growing there. It's an old Asian technique. They basically brew sweet tea. You make a big batch of sweet tea, you dump this Scoby into the sweet tea, you cover it, you let it sit on your counter for, I think it's 10 to 14 days. It starts to smell, you smell it fermenting, and all the while this Scoby is feeding off of the sugar and the yeast that's in there, and the tea. And that's when it starts to create all those probiotics. Then you get 2 weeks later, you get this kind of weird smelling stuff, and then you bottle that. And when you put that out on the counter, it starts to grow, to get these bubbles in it, because that's not like a natural carbonation. It's basically fermented. That's why maybe sometimes you get a little buzz drinking one of these, because it's got a little bit of alcohol in it. So it's a very interesting process. And for anybody, this is the best time to do it. People stuck at home, you can just go online and do a Google search, at home kombucha brew, and all you gotta do is buy a Scoby. The rest is make sweet tea, dump it in there, let it sit for 2 weeks, and pick your flavor. It's fun, it's crazy, and it's time consuming.
Do you still actually make your own kombucha, or is that something you sort of gave up?
I have Scobies, and I still have my big brewing jars, but I haven't made any in probably 2 years.
So with this, okay, so with this Scoby, I'm interested in this. So you'll buy whatever fruit you want. Is there a specific tea you have to use with this?
You can use any tea you want. Typically, you just get a black tea. I think even if you look in the ingredients, yours might say it too. It might say black tea. Black tea, green tea.
It does.
So you would just brew your basic tea, and all the flavors, like your peach and your pineapple and all that, that's not in the original. Originally you just have your plain old tea. You dump the Scoby in it, and when you dump that Scoby in there, it ferments. It does its thing for 10 to 13 days. You got to keep it at between 68 and 72 degrees. So sometimes they sell little heating pads you can set it on. Once the brew itself is ready and you get the Scoby off and you get this big thing of liquid, that's when you put it in all these individual bottles and you flavor each bottle. You can put blackberries in one, or kiwis in the other, or whatever it is you're doing, and then it sits in that bottle for 3 or 4 days, and it starts to bubble up and get ready to go. And then that's when you end up with that product you have there.
So it takes about 2 weeks to finish one.
You want to see a Scoby?
Yeah. Let me see a Scoby. Scott's gonna.
2 seconds.
So he's gonna. Those of you who are just listening at this time, he's walking away. He's gonna show it on the video. If you wanted to see a Scoby, check out the YouTube channel where we actually stream it, so you can actually see it live on video. But he's pulling it out now. That was quick.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You may never drink kombucha again. I'm kidding, but
that was like lightning speed. Oh wow, look at that. That looks like a dead rat.
That's it. Liquid. This is basically kombucha.
Yeah.
And that big, thick, crazy thing it's about this thick. So if I put this one in to a batch, you have the main big Scoby, but then a baby grows. So every time you make a batch, you get an extra Scoby. So every batch you have 2. So you end up with hundreds of Scobies.
Got it. So he's holding up this. He's holding up this canning bottle, and like those of you can't see, and there's liquid around it, and in the center is the Scoby, right, Scott?
Yeah. This one looks like a big pancake because it was in a big, jar, a big porcelain jar the size of a Frisbee, and it was 2 gallons.
Wow.
So that Scoby grows across the whole top, and then it gets thicker as it grows. So it's like a big layer of weirdness. And I mean, it's once you start seeing that, you're either turned off or you're like, okay, I'm cool with this.
Well, I'm definitely, yeah, definitely interested in what a homemade kombucha tastes like, because I've had some there was a place in LA that actually had like kombucha. It was just a kombucha place, and it was some of the freshest, best tasting kombucha I've ever had. And I can never find anything that's like it. I'm assuming it's if you make it yourself, and that's exactly what they did.
The home brew, like this stuff here, it's when you drink that home brew, I mean, it's night and day different. A lot stronger, a lot more flavor. Definitely will hit your bowel system a little faster and harder the first couple of times because it's so strong. And it definitely will give you a little buzz. The original, the true stuff, it's got 5% or less alcohol. So I mean, or not 5%, but like 0.5. So it's a little bit, but the plain with no flavor in it tastes like apple juice, in my opinion. So if you ever see the original and it's not flavored, it's kind of an apple juicy taste. So that's what this stuff is. It's like apple juice, cider vinegar sort of tasting.
Kind of like the original stuff, right?
The original, and Synergy makes an original. They have one that's just flavorless, but it literally tastes like apple juice.
Yeah. And for those of you worried about like the alcohol content, not every brand is like that. Like the Kavita doesn't have any of the alcohol brew in it. It doesn't keep the mother part in it. So I think that takes away from the original that Scott's talking about. But what you're talking about is like the original technique of like making kombucha, like the way it's been done in Asia.
Yeah, and just like homebrew. Now you can go to Whole Foods and you can go to the beer section. And they have these in a black bottle, and it says original. This is I can't think of what it's called, but it's they're all called like traditional or something, and they have all these different flavors, grape and a few other ones, and they are, they have all the alcohol in it. They haven't been diluted at all. They haven't been added with a little juice. So those are very strong. And again, the original, it's just, I guess it's less diluted. That's the best way to explain it. So you're getting a full blast of that stuff. It's strong.
Tell me the health benefits.
It's not even like beer. It just is naturally fermented. So, you get sometimes you may get a little like, ooh, I feel funny, but you're not. It's not like when you drink a beer or something. You're like, oh man, I'm drunk. It's not
right.
It's not like that. It's just kind of like, oh wow, I love this stuff. That's what it always does to me.
Yeah. So tell me about a lot of the health benefits to this, because that's what turned me on to it when you were talking about a lot of the probiotics you get with it.
Yeah, I mean the probiotics, it's huge. Just having all that natural bacteria in your stomach, just helping keep that going. I mean, I've been drinking this stuff for about 6, 7, 8 years. I can't even remember now. And, I love it. Gives me energy. I wouldn't say I replace it with coffee, but I don't drink soda. I don't drink anything like that. So I look forward to having one of these every day. I usually have it between lunchtime and 5 p.m. And I keep staring down at it because I'm trying to think. The best part of these to me is, I guess, the probiotic. I'll say that I don't know if it happened to you, but it happened to me and everybody else that I feel like has their first couple, but your stomach has to get used to it. So maybe that first or second time you're like, did you put a laxative in my drink? but it's just getting your natural bacteria, and it's getting your system cleared out. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's not as bad as it sounds. But this ancient Asian technique, I think the fact that we still use it, and it's become so huge, I trust it. It's delicious, and it's definitely addictive.
Yeah. Yeah, in a good way, almost like coffee is. Because don't get me wrong, I still love coffee. I don't feel like I crave it as much. Usually, I'm craving, one of these ginger kombuchas early in the morning. So that's usually my go-to now.
For sure. The peach ginger, that's definitely a go-to for me also. That and the tart cherry.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try that one. I haven't tried that yet.
Peach pineapple. Yeah, the tart cherry is good. I mean, if you like cherry Coke, it's good.
Yeah. Is it like cherry Coke?
That's the closest thing I can compare it to. I mean, obviously there's no cola in it, but you get that cherry that when you're drinking I haven't had one in years, but when I would drink a cherry Coke, you'd have that little.
Oh, I remember those. I loved it.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
You can find them. I know that I was in Chicago. They had some very unique ones, like dragon fruit and some other weird stuff. And they were.
We have a
pretty
big
good.
selection here.
Kavita made all those. Melon. They have like a melon and something else. Lavender melon. Kavita makes delicious.
All right, I'll have to
good
try
for
that.
bedtime.
Okay, lavender melon. That sounds.
It was good. I think I found that one when I was there.
Okay, yeah, we have some pretty cool ones here. I mean, there's always a new one. There was a tonic vinegar ginger one that I tried. It was supposed to be like really good for you. I tried it, didn't really like it. In fact, I bought like 6 bottles. My CEO recommended it once. He's like, "Oh, it's terrific. You'll love it, Jake." So I was like, "All right." So I took his word for it. I bought like 6 or 8 bottles. Hated it. So this was about a year ago. I literally drove to his doorstep and left him on his front door and left. He's like, "Was this you who dropped off all this kombucha?" I was like, "Yeah, it's that vinegar stuff. You can have it."
I'm trying to figure out which one it is, because they do make some where like you'll go and say, "Oh, there's a Kavita," and then you don't realize it's not even a kombucha. It's just one of their drinks they make. I mean, they make some, just I can't even think of what they make. They even just have some probiotic drinks, where it's not even a kombucha. They're good.
Right. Kavita's not all kombucha. That's right. We should have mentioned that. But they do have some
water
healthy drinks.
Something probiotic beverage.
Yeah. Well, it's got me addicted, so I'm going to have one more swig of this before I ask you my next question.
There you go.
All right, so kind of getting off that nutrition. So, I mean, you've been a vegan most of your adult life, which is tremendous dedication. What are the recommendations that you give to your clients now? Is it something do you try to merge them on the vegan diet, or do you basically work with what their lifestyle is and try to work around that? And what's that like?
I guess I would say this. They don't ask me tons about nutrition. I'm not sure really why. One of the little kids, they could care less, but it seems like the adults, with what we have to deal with via the video, just trying to get all the little kinks worked out. They never go into questions about food for me and diet. Yep. I have some that will complain about what they eat, so then I'll give advice. I got a buddy that complains about he eats too much of this, or I had pizza last night, or I had 3 beers and a pizza or whatever, I cheated, and I'm like, well, we're going to work hard. You can treat yourself here and there. These people, I try and tell them, they'll ask me, they'll say, how do you stay so I'm not saying I'm muscular, but they're like, how do you have any muscles being vegan? Like, how do you get that protein? And I try and tell them to go outsource these things. My buddy, one of my guys I work out with, lives in New York. He's got endless restaurants, and he's been lately just picking vegan, and he says he loves it because the next morning he wakes up feeling light. He doesn't feel bloated after his meals. Just not greasy food. So I think that the only way to really, in my opinion, get people to want to try it is to have them try something that they can enjoy. Because the typical questions I get are, how do you do that vegan? And it's, like if I say I had a vegan pie for Thanksgiving, they're like, well, how's that possible? Because in their brain, there's no such thing as milk unless it came out of a cow. Sure. When there's like 900 other kinds of milks that came from nuts and beans, So it's just trying to get people to realize that you could be vegan, you could still eat the same stuff you do. it's just a matter of not overeating. And again, I got all the people, my biggest complaints are the beers, I don't have a lot of clients that ask me about how to do the vegan diet, but I definitely, if they're asking something to eat, I steer them towards vegan, or I try and say, well, you don't have to eat so much meat. You don't have to completely rely on it. However, it's good for you. And if it works for you and it's helping you get bigger and it's helping you with energy, I think it's all in what they want.
That's
like
that's an interesting.
Eaters like you.
Your take is interesting, Scott, because I think a lot of people would say their experience with those that are vegan are almost religiously preachy about it. And you've always been, knowing you for as long as I have, you've never at any point. First of all, it wasn't the first thing you told me. You didn't introduce yourself and say, "Hey, I'm Scott Poe and I'm a vegan." Like you're sort of confessing.
It makes me feel virtuous.
Yeah. So it's kind of refreshing on that end where you definitely look at both health sides, but I kind of agree with you on the clients though. A lot of times fitness to me was like, let's get the fitness down first, and then the nutrition questions come to you. A lot of times now now that the clients are wondering, okay, I can't get to this next level. Well, now we can talk nutrition, but it's so hard to develop, a habit just on one of them, than to like just blindside a client to say, okay, I want you to get on a healthy workout program. We're going to work out with me 3 days a week, and I'm going to take away everything you used to love with nutrition, and we're going to do this for 6 weeks. And so there's so many different changes that the client has to get used to, plus working out, plus having the energy to do so. So they're almost in this like withdrawal of everything. So I'm kind of on the same line of like, I've never been really preachy with nutrition, but once that topic comes up, I sort of lean towards the sides that have actually worked for me. And I definitely appreciate that style.
It's all about what works for them. And I mean, I can steer them into eating something healthier, but it's what works. I mean, some people, they don't have the luxury of having those choices. I mean, some people eat fast food because that's their only option, or they're not eating for the day. Finding fast food that's not terrible. That's so hard.
Yeah.
Luckily, I can't really eat fast food even if I want to, because you can't really find anything vegan, and I don't just want a salad.
Yeah, there's no vegan option with that.
A pile of lettuce.
I will tell you, when you travel, one thing I learned the hard way, this is the first year I traveled, where it was like workouts were easy because that's habit for me. But what you don't think about is when you're getting to your hotel at 10:30 at night and all the restaurants where you could get something healthy are closed. And now it's like, what are your options? And before you realize it, you're eating nothing but garbage food. So it doesn't matter if you're working out or not. Now I'm eating things that I'm not used to eating. And that was something that, like, it was a transition in life where I'm like, okay, this isn't good. There's going to have to be a better direction. That's definitely a challenge for some people. And I can relate to some of that.
Make it tough. You don't know what to get late. You end up with a Jolt Cola and a pack of Marlboros or something. Don't do that.
No, that would be desperation, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. If I have any recommendations for those who travel a lot, even during COVID, some of you still do. I know the world's getting smaller, but what I have learned is I always keep things in my bag that will give me the calories I need to help me through the next day, and it's always seeds and nuts. So if it's cashews, almonds, cashews usually at night so I can have something fattier. But I refuse to go out and get the fast food anymore because I feel like that was just steps backwards, where I wake up the next day and just feel like crap.
Yes.
Yeah. The options of Colt or Jolt in Marlboros, I never really thought about that, but that's usually the areas where you're at. Like, that's the only thing that's open. Those are your options.
Exactly. Peanuts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So one other thing, and it's the elephant in the room every time I'm talking to somebody, is the whole 2020, I kind of want to rewind about a year, and well, maybe the last 9 months of how that situation affected you, and like how you dealt with it. Obviously, we have an idea of how you dealt with it with your fitness, and with your company, which I think was almost groundbreaking because that's sort of where things are going now. But what was it like for you during COVID? How did it affect you? How did it affect your health? And I think the biggest thing is, how was it with your mental health and being kind of closed in? Were you as affected with some people in the quarantine as I've heard others have been? I know that's a loaded question.
It was real tough at first. You know, you just kind of get blindsided. There was a weird, I wouldn't say excitement, but like a summer camp feeling, like take a break for a little while. But that was, quickly taken out of the picture, because you realize once everything starts shutting down, you can't go anywhere and you can't do anything. Life's changing quick. I mean, it made it tough. It caught me off guard for sure. Especially with the fact that I was literally just trying to get moving. So with everything shutting down, you get overwhelmed and try and stay positive.
Yep.
And I feel like good stuff always comes when bad things are happening. So I just try and stay positive with it and keep moving, and never really think in the back of my mind that this isn't going to work out. I'm not going to make it. I don't like to even have those thoughts, because sometimes that is it's contagious in your brain. It just takes over. Keep positive. I don't know. It's kind of cliche, but if you think negative thoughts, I feel like you're going to be negative.
Sure.
So with COVID, I had to, couldn't go anywhere anymore. I stayed away from lots of stores. I stayed away from lots of places because it was an anxiety of having to go into stores and places like that, because I'm not fond of the mask. So it always made it a really awkward scenario, having to go in different places. And then, the splitting of, is this the right thing to do? Is this safe? Is this not safe? It's just political now.
Sure.
So I think that made it really, really tough. So even if you want to talk about anything, it always goes back to someone thinks you're trying to be political when I don't know. It made it really weird. I think it made it weird for everyone, and everybody had to relearn how to communicate with people, be around people. And I mean, we're still trying to get through it and deal with it. It's made it awkward for everyone. I think I luckily we talked about it, but I think I got COVID in the very beginning, before it was even a thing or we knew what it was. I just thought I had a really bad cold.
Yeah.
And it wiped me out.
I can relate to that. Yeah, I was bedridden for a while.
Say it again.
COVID hit me pretty hard too. Mostly I was tired at the end. But yeah, it was exhausting for a few days, definitely for sure. Did you get, during that cough, did you get that glass shard feeling when you coughed in your chest?
Yeah, and it wasn't a consistent, always coughing, but I definitely had a tickle. And anytime that I had to take that breath and cough, I'd immediately say, man, that hurts. Like it wasn't the typical cough I was used to feeling. It was a sharp, tearing feeling. I don't even know. It was like somebody was it was like a xenomorph was trying to climb out of my lungs.
Exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah.
A sharp pain, just deep body soreness, and aches and pains and chills. I would shiver. I would just sit there and shiver and sweat.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
To me, when I had it, I knew it was something different, because I've never had a cough like that. And for the most part, usually when I've had a cough, it would last for a couple days. It would linger a little bit, but then it would go away. This was the same case, like for like a 5-day flu, if you would have had it. And I've never had a flu that's lasted longer than a couple of days. So when it went beyond the 2, 3, then on day 4, and I had just assumed it was because I was traveling so much. That's when I knew there was something different. And then of course, that was February. Come around March, then I'm like, oh, that sounds like something I had. Later I got tested, found out there was antibodies, and that made sense. But yeah, I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I can't guarantee I had it, but I can kind of guarantee I had it.
Yeah, it sounds like the very same symptoms that I had, and there's a good chance if you were to get, maybe not now, but if you would have gotten tested a couple months ago, you probably would have had the antibodies, and you still might. I don't know. I still do.
Sure, and I mean, ever since then, I've felt like Iron Man. I mean, I will say that, I know I had something. That's the only thing I can say it was. I mean, if I have a sore throat, I can tell you it's a sore throat. I don't need somebody to tell me it's that. I'm not saying I know but I mean, it wasn't the flu. It was like it, and everything I've heard. I mean, I'm like, that has to be what it is. But I never got tested. I don't know if I have the antibodies. Like you said, they're probably not even there anymore. But
your body probably has a better way of fighting it off now. It's interesting you bring that up though, because I felt the same way when you said you felt like Iron Man. For the first 7 months after COVID, I literally felt like I could walk through fire and all the demons can cough down my lungs and I wasn't going to get sick. And the interesting thing is I got humbled very quickly. About 3 days ago, I came back from a trip and literally got blasted with probably a little over a 24-hour flu, by far worst case flu I've ever had in my life. Where the moment I got back to my room, I was so dehydrated that I passed out in the bathroom, and then I went to the bed and I was going to try to go back again, and I passed out in the bed. So I'm not sure if it's COVID that like made me get hit harder with this, or if it was just one of the things that, when I went to the clinic, she's like, well, the flu has been stronger this year than it has been in previous years. And she gave some other reason that maybe agrees with science, but I agreed with her just because I know it's the worst I've ever felt. I haven't had a flu. I can't remember the last time I've actually had the flu. So for me to get like a back-to-back, literally within a year, I've had COVID and the flu. And that's like a first for me. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut about how I feel these days about being invincible, because it knocked me flat on the bed. And the first thing I thought of was like, yeah, I kind of deserve this.
That is funny. But hey, you knocked it out quick at least.
Yeah. I did rebound fast. Friday was miserable. By the time Saturday came around, I was feeling better. But you start to like, it was the weakness, and then you get past that, and then finally getting some of your nutrition back. But I was so dehydrated. Probably the worst I've been dehydrated, or at least close to it.
That's no fun.
No. All right, I want to go back to something you said too. It's a little controversial. We'll probably lose some of our audience, which is why I want to talk about it, because a lot of times when things disagree, people want to run, and that's one thing I don't want to do here. Is one of the good things that you can do, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast, is that we can disagree about things, and the whole point of it is we can talk it out. And there's a culture difference, I guess. There's a culture polarization, maybe a better way to put it, where if one side doesn't agree with this side, I'm going to cancel that side. And if we don't agree with one another, then you disagree with me, you're on that side, I want nothing to do with you. And it does go to something as simple as the face mask. And some of these people do seem to, it's a strange culture of those that really embrace that, I guess that almost like billboard they present it as. And the reason why I say billboard is that I've seen profiles where people are wearing their mask. And to me, that literally nauseates me. Like, if nothing is going to make me sick, it's seeing that, because all day I'm in airports, I'm in the airplane, I'm in Ubers, I'm going to hotels, state to state, coast to coast, and I never see a face. So you go online and you hope to see people, and their profile picture is actually covering their face, and makes no sense to me whatsoever, because you're not going to contract COVID online unless there's something new that I don't know about, which would be interesting. So let's talk about that a little bit. Like, you talked about your discomforts of the mask, but what are your I guess, experiences when it comes to the masks in your neighborhood? Because it does vary between state to state. I do see some benefits. I don't know if the benefits outweigh some of the setbacks, because I do think there's setbacks too. And then kind of like dive into, you talked about some of it being political. I'm curious about what your take of that is as well, because I think there's some obvious things where there has been a polarizing left or right agenda behind the mask.
No, for sure. I mean, the first thing is going back to the profile picture. I think the only logic behind that is unfortunately, it's just their way of, it's a virtue signal. It's them saying, I do this, so you don't get anything out of wearing it in your picture. You're just doing it so you know that they follow that rule, and it makes them feel like they're doing their part. That's all I can think of. Around here, I mean, it's not as strict. It's still strict. Chapel Hill, I work in Chapel Hill some. It's a very liberal area. So mainly what happens there is if I don't have my mask on, you get funny looks, you get scowls, whatever it is. And I guess it's got to be an agree to disagree type topic, because, I have scientific arguments. I haven't really gotten to have too many in-depth conversations, because the people I talk to, they don't have anything factual to come back with. They just repeat basic talking points. I don't think they do anything. I don't think they're effective. I think if you're trying to stop a virus, you need to have a respirator and a face mask on, because otherwise you can contract it. A simple piece of cloth isn't going to do anything. That's my opinion. I feel like there's plenty of evidence to back it up. But again, when it's become a political thing, I don't think facts matter when you're trying to stick to a side. And that's what's unfortunate, is that's the divide that's created. I can't go against this side, or I can't go against this side. And unfortunately, that's why it's an issue now, is because people don't really want to have conversations. They'd rather, be a hall monitor or a Karen and just pick on you for it, instead of maybe talk to you, or just mind their business and go on about their day. It makes it tough. I don't really get confronted a lot here. I have been confronted a few times. It's usually kind of quick and over with. But when you want to have the conversation with people, it's usually ended quickly, at least in my experience. No one wants to go any further than just telling you need to wear it. When you're controlled by fear, or whatever it is you're using to absorb your information. For example, I put it on a news channel the other day, and it has a ticker in the side telling you how many cases per day and how many deaths per day. It's constantly driving a fear, and people can never really relax because they're scared of their own shadow. And I try not to let fear control me. I try to learn, like sharks. I think I've maybe mentioned that to you. When I want to learn about something that I'm scared of, or when I want to overcome fear, I need to learn about it. And the more that I've learned about this whole virus, the more I've educated myself. It doesn't scare me, I'm not scared of getting a cold. I'm not scared of getting a virus, because I feel like I have a healthy enough immune system to fight it off. And again, there's an agree to disagree, but the cloth mask isn't, in my personal opinion, from the information I've absorbed, going to stop a virus. A virus is a half of a micron. A cloth is going to stop something 2 microns or bigger, so it's impossible anyways. And if they're not there, I could go in circles all day about all the facts, but like you said, before those conversations get made, before they even get to a certain point, people have already decided. They don't really want to hear the other side because they've picked their group to stay with. I try to stay nonpartisan. However, I don't like to be told what to do either. So, maybe that is my partisan side. It's tough. It's a tough.
What would you say to the other side of? And I've heard another argument when it comes to the mask, is that I'm not wearing it for me. I'm wearing it to protect those that are more susceptible to it, where it's more dangerous for them. I've heard that argument before.
That's the thing. If they're susceptible, then they need to be the ones that are wearing something, because a lot of these, like an N95 mask, it only works on the inhale. It's not meant to filter on the outward. So sure, it's going to filter as you're breathing in, but also an N95 is for dust particles. It's not for droplets or air. So, you know, the people that, I mean, if you really, really are worried, you got to get like Heisenberg. You got to be ready to go in there and have your eyes covered, your mouth covered, and completely filter the virus out. Because if you are trying to protect someone else, you're not going to do it breathing out through a mask. When you can, I mean, if you wear it outside cold and you can see all that air floating around beside you, there it is, floating right out in the air. You know, it's not catching anything.
Yeah.
Yet, you know, I think the CDC themselves, they put that information out there, but they bury it so deep down into their website that the average person doesn't understand how to read it or even know that they're telling you that just the people in charge are enjoying having you do what they say. That's just that's where I am on it. I can't ever say I'm completely right. I just know how I feel about it. And I try to educate myself. I'm not just guessing. I don't feel like I'm just making this up. I feel like if I'm saying it or I'm willing to have the conversation with you, I've thought it through. I've done some research. And if you can change my mind, please do. You know, that's how I like to look at anything. You know, if we don't open up conversations and have dialogue, well, what good is it? You know, communication, that's probably one of our biggest skills that we have to be able to utilize with people.
Yeah, and if you're in a society that doesn't want to hear another side that disagrees with your side, that's when we have problems. To me, the biggest fear isn't whether you take one side or the other. It's that you take one side and don't want to hear the other side, and then not only that, you want to cancel the side that disagrees with you, just because you think that's what causes all the problems because they're not on your side, and that's what's dangerous. Because even if I disagree with somebody and I think their approach is inappropriate or wrong or it's just downright immoral, the beauty of what we have in our communication is the fact that we can disagree, and the best way to challenge that is to have a better argument to refute what we disagree with, not to just shut it down, not to just cancel that person or cancel that company or whatever it is that's going on these days. And yeah, it's the biggest problem, one of the biggest problems I think that we've been kind of seeing in this line that has been drawn, like what side you take. I tend to be in the middle, which is bad because when you're in the middle, both sides tend to like think you're on the other side. Yeah. And so it's like if you pose a question to them, they already assume you're on the other side, and that's enough to be canceled, which is laughable, but at the same time can be extremely dangerous in a society that used to pride itself on the freedom of expression, the freedom of being able to voice yourself like you and I are doing, and have disagreements and have discussions, like cordial, even if we did have an argument back and forth. We can do it in such a way where we can still be adults and at the end still be friends. And that used to be the case even with debates. These days, you don't even see debates because one side doesn't want to hear the other side doesn't want to hear this side. There's virtue signaling. There's like back and forth of literally just kind of canceling one side out over the other if they disagree with you. And that's becoming a little bit cumbersome.
Yeah, well, and if you really, really, really look at every single place that your news comes from, I mean, other than Fox News maybe being the right side, the other 95% of your news source is the other side. So no matter which side you want to be on or what you want to believe, you're only getting one side. You know, if you're just in your car, you want to turn on some public radio, you're only going to get one angle. You know, it makes it tough when one side controls the narrative and the other side is only heard if it's sought out. You know, you can't just find some certain information, especially when it's banned from certain platforms or it's canceled or it's disagreed with. So it's immediately, let's call that view a name or whatever, you know. It degrades, it takes away from the fact that we could be learning and bettering and coming together, as opposed to dividing just from being on a specific side and not wanting to hear the other side, or just not liking what they have to say. So get them out of here. I don't even want to hear it. Get them out of here.
Right. That's
and I mean, on both sides, if it was happening either way, I'm not about it.
Sure.
You know, I don't think that anyone should be silenced, whether I agree with what you're saying or not.
Yeah. I was reading, have you ever, the book 1984? Oh, yeah. I've been rereading that recently, and, I came across something that was extremely interesting, where one of the things that they did was they tried to reduce the vocabulary of the people. And if you reduce the amount of words that people can use, you take away their knowledge and their ability to express things, and it loses its meaning. And you can definitely relate it to what's going on today, of eliminating certain things or not allowing certain verbiage anymore, because it's, whether we're offended by it or whether we just don't want to hear it or we don't agree with it. Canceling it out only just takes away from being able to, one, express ourselves in this country, or even the most important thing, the freedom that we have that ability to do so without fear of being muted. And that's exactly what this book talked about, was like eliminating these certain things, was this gain of control, that if you start to dilute the language, now you don't even have that ability to articulate things that you could have otherwise done so. So there's no more argument anymore. And suddenly, when everything's on one side, now there's no culture anymore. There's
exactly.
Yeah.
And I've heard that same thing talked about in those same parts of that book, or the concept, even when they just go to something as simple as Twitter, where they don't let you just type what you want. You can only type this many words, so you're having to dumb down your speech. You're having to minimize it. You may have this huge idea you want to get across, but you got to put it into these few little words and compact it. And I think it creates, short term. People can't focus as long because they're so used to having information in little spurts. And unfortunately, even with the memes and things like that, that's some people, that's their news, a meme. That's what they get. They read their meme, and there it is. They're educated.
Unfortunately, that you couldn't have gotten truer than that. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think podcasts are so good, is that you're not eliminating words, and literally there's I have no time limit on this podcast, where at some point the truth will come out regardless, and natural expression will come out, and you're not just trying to get that dopamine effect that many people do when they just try to, I'm going to post this and see how many people I can either piss off, or how many friends and likes I can get and shares I can get from like all the people on my side. And it's that adrenaline rush, I think, of that short-term jolt of that positive reinforcement. It's temporary. I would say it's almost not real. It's certainly not real, but I think that's what people really kind of yearn for these days. And like you said, that's where a lot of them get their news. They saw this meme. That certainly has to be true.
Yeah, exactly. Man, that dopamine is for real. When these people are in there, it's not only is that interaction like a drug to them, but there's no end. When you're scrolling through Instagram or whatever, it doesn't ever end. So it's just like you never hit the bottom of that rabbit hole. And unfortunately, a lot of those platforms are very one-sided. And if you do perchance get a different side, it's fact check. It's got something attached to it to discredit. Before anyone reads what you posted, you're already discredited because some guy with Cheeto crumbs all over his shirt that's laying on his couch decided what you said wasn't true. And he's got nothing to back that up other than his Cheeto crumbs.
You don't crave Cheetos right now, do you? Because that doesn't. There's a quote here, and I'm gonna try to look it up real quickly because I want. It just reminds me, and I think it was by Adlai Stevenson. So all you Democrats out there, this is for you guys. Don't get all butthurt if you're a Democrat, because I'm using a Democrat to kind of prove the point here. where it made a lot of sense. And if I can find it real quickly.
Find that. I need a 15-second
Yeah.
break.
Yeah. So yeah, go for it. Scott's going to take a break here, and I just found it. It's and I got an ad blocker here. Give me a second here. Adelaide Stevenson gave a quote years ago, but he was talking about the Bill of Rights and how fear sort of breeds repression. And there's a certain quote that I'm gonna try to find here. Yep, and here it is right here. So, again, he's talking about the Bill of Rights, and he's also talking about situations that were placed by often media or just the government in general, using a fear tactic to keep people down. And one of the things that Scott was talking about, where there's fear tactics. And with these fear tactics, there's a means to say, hey, so you don't have to be fearful so we can be there for your safety. You're going to have to give up some of your rights. The more times we give up rights, then we don't have to worry about fear anymore because we'll no longer have any rights. And I think it's the illusion of safety that we have to be careful of. But I'm going to read this real quick. It says, "The tragedy of our day is the climate of fear in which we live. And fear breeds repression. Too often, sinister threats to the Bill of Rights, to the freedom of the mind, are concealed under the patriotic cloak of anti-communism." With the exception of the anti-communism, I think you can say today it's just anti-thought, anti-COVIDism, anti-whatever it is, ism. But it's definitely true in many cases where the more fear we have, we start to breed repression. You cannot get more repressed than saying, hey, everybody stay inside and don't go outside, don't get any vitamin D, and don't talk to your loved ones, stay away from everybody, and cover your faces. Again, I understand that there's a case of that to be made where it comes to safety, but I also will talk about mental health in that case. And we're going to keep diving into that. But that was an Adelaide Stevenson quote. Those of you you can fact check me if you want. I just Googled it. But something I've always kind of held on to is that what is the government doing when Scott brought up the fear part? What are they doing to scare us? What scare tactic, or why are they doing the scare tactic? What are they trying to control? And I'm not suggesting that I'm going to make this a big conspiracy theory, but hey, whatever, that's fun too. So that's the Adelaide Stevenson quote.
I love it.
Well, a true fear, and all kidding aside, but maybe a few jokes will come along with this, but a real fear, something to truly be afraid of, is sharks. And you mentioned that about 10 minutes ago when you were talking about like the fear of COVID and the government kept pushing it in your face. But I'm definitely afraid of sharks. I had a shark encounter years ago and have been afraid of sharks ever since. What brought your fear of sharks on?
It was just a good example of something that, maybe it was being a kid with Jaws. Maybe it was the fact that every time I was in a swimming pool and I was the only person who was getting out, I'm like, oh God, something's going to get me. But, the movie industry, the news, everything's so powerful at creating and drumming up this irrational fear. So I had this absolutely irrational fear of sharks because of a movie, and something like that. So the reason I brought it up is I felt like it was a good analogy to the masks or the virus, because once you educate yourself, you might not be as scared. I don't mean go and listen to your favorite host tell you what to be scared of.
Yeah.
Do some research and decide for yourself. But I just had this weird fear of sharks.
Mm-hmm.
Always looking over my shoulder if I'm at the beach, I can't even explain it. I could be in a lake and in my mind a shark's going to get me. I start to watch more and more, and then, watch documentaries, learn that they're just gentle creatures. They're just misunderstood. There's no real such thing as a shark attack. They're just checking you out. It just so happens that they want to come touch you and see what you're all about. They might take a whole chunk out. Most of the time, you only got a little piece missing, because if that shark really wanted to take you, you're gone.
He certainly could, yeah.
It's a hope. Hey, sorry, didn't mean to take half your leg. But it's I brought it up because I wanted to get rid of a fear that I thought was irrational, or at least learn so that I could not be so anxious or have that worry. So I feel like anytime I've ever been worried about something, I educate myself. And I've always wanted to go swim with sharks. That'd be like one of the absolute coolest things in the world to do. And I think that would be something to test whether I still have that irrational fear. There's a difference between respecting something, knowing that it's dangerous, and being so terrified of it that you just aren't yourself. So I think, I brought that example up because I feel like that's how people maybe are about this whole pandemic.
Yeah, that's an interesting point to educate yourself. So let me kind of put you in the corner with that. And since we're both in that same boat, let's educate ourselves and let's go down this summer to Palm Beach or somewhere in Florida. Jupiter Island has a place, and let's go swim with sharks. Oh yeah. I found a place you can snorkel, you can scuba, whatever you want to do, and we should go swim with the sharks.
I'm 100% down, and we need to make that happen. And
okay.
It would be really crazy to go to Jupiter, because when I was in West Palm Beach, I mean, that's like a stone's throw from where I was in school.
Yeah. See, that's perfect.
It's perfect. And the waters down there are very clear. I'll tell you this, there was a lot of times where I was swimming down in the ocean down there around Palm Beach Gardens or Jupiter. Yeah. And I would feel these eerie shadows off in the distance. And then, you'd hear like 2 days later, bull shark sightings. And it's like, oh man, were they stalking me? But again, they probably were just out there hanging out.
And it's kind of like what you sort of alluded to. It's like you got it from Jaws as a kid. Maybe that's where I started. It's the unknown. Everybody is afraid of what they don't know. And it taps into something that literally, if you investigate it, you'll discover that you could probably, one, you can handle it. Two, it's a wonderful adrenaline rush. At least this case would be. And you feel good. If you people who like that little shot of dopamine and you're getting that from the internet, imagine what you can do if you actually live life rather than just sending things through Twitter. Or,
It's a lot different when it's in front of you and it's not a device.
Yeah. It's a big difference when you're actually going to be in the ocean. It's interesting because I didn't make the shark encounter up. It happened to me when I was in Clearwater years ago, and I was treading water. It was around dusk when a lot of them come out, and I was out like right by the buoy, about almost as far as you're allowed to go, and I kicked something. And sure enough, when I kicked it, I saw the dorsal fin go right in front of me, and it was just scared. That's what I'm determined at this point. But when I saw the dorsal fin, I freaked out, dove deep underwater as low as I can, and I just started swimming towards the shore. I was always taught that if you had a shark encounter, you go low because sharks attack, towards the surface of the water. I don't know if that's true. Someone can fact check that too if they want. But that was my reaction. So I literally stayed underwater until I actually almost ate sand. Of course, the shark didn't chase me because he certainly could have caught me, bit my feet off. So nothing ever came from that. But, I've always thought of that encounter. And I've been in the ocean since then, but it's definitely been a fear of mine. I wear a shark's tooth. I don't know why. I've always been infatuated with the animal. So it's a deal. We're making a pact, you and me right now. This summer, we'll set a date. We'll talk about it in the next podcast because I want you on again, and we're going to swim with some sharks, and we're going to attack a fear.
No, definitely. And like with that shark that you experienced, sometimes the fact that maybe you were standing, you bumped into it might not have even seen you when it hit you and after, because they lose their vision and that sand gets stirred up a lot. And sometimes that's why they end up biting people's legs. They don't even know what they bit. They just run into something, and they're like, oh God, they can't see. But again, who knows? But a lot of those like shallow water attacks are where they don't even know what is there because the sand has completely obstructed their view.
Interesting.
So you never know, but I'm glad it didn't chase you.
Maybe it tried and just didn't see me. My fat foot kicked up too much sand.
He saw that shark tooth and thought it was his older cousin.
If I was wearing it, he probably would have chased me. No, go away.
That's right. But
No,
yeah, we
bite
definitely
your
got to do
hand
it. Like
off.
I'm game. I think it will be so fun. It's something I've wanted to do for years and years and years. I've just never committed to it. I don't know why. I swam with a dolphin, but not a shark.
Yeah, yeah. Dolphins would be, yeah, definitely not the same as swimming with sharks. Yeah. All right. It's on. Everyone heard it, so we are committed, and we'll set up a date, and then it'll be something for us to kind of talk about on the next podcast. Maybe even have you on before that, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. I definitely want you on again if you're willing.
Yeah, for sure. We'll make it happen. I mean, that'll be fun. That's something I definitely look forward to doing that. I've wanted to do it forever, so I'm anxious now. I think it's going to be fun.
That's fantastic.
Scott,
Scott, I
it was
appreciate it.
Would appreciate it.
It's been a blast. I want to, before we go, I want to make sure that so if people wanted to reach you and they wanted to train with you, it's poeticfitnessnc@gmail.com.
Yeah, easiest way. I mean, email, in all honesty, easiest way. As long as you can get a hold of me, you can email me, and then I can give you my phone number. But yes, Poetic Fitness NC, like North Carolina, @Gmail. Email me. We can. If you have any questions, whatever it is, just inquire. Want to talk about goals, see what I can offer, what you want to do. We can always make a plan, make something happen. I can pretty much do a little bit of everything, so it makes it fun for me when people want to come in and do yoga or do something different, than the typical strength training. But again, we can hit every angle. That's what's so fun about fitness. We can do it all, and I have fun with it. So when people join me, it makes it more fun. I just like to share the excitement of it. I mean, like it's contagious. Like when I found you, it made me want to do it. So hopefully I can bring that to other people once they connect with it. I can make it fun for them.
Anybody, I'm sorry, Scott. What I wanted to say also is anybody who wanted to know any type of like Scott's training style, I had videos on my channel, on the Relentless Muscle channel. Eventually those videos will be on your YouTube channel, correct?
Yes.
So you'll be able to get a good idea of how he trains. He's a blast. He definitely makes fitness fun. It's one of the reasons I wanted him on. He fits a lifestyle of fitness that I like. He takes away the douchebaggery and he makes it, clownery in a good way. Fun stuff, not clownery making fun of fitness. He does it in such a way where fitness actually is fun. And I mean that sincerely. One of the good things also with Scott is that because he does the online stuff, it doesn't matter where you're at. All over the world, you can Zoom and you can have a training session with him. Just email him. Once again, that's poeticfitnessnc@gmail.com. I will leave that in the link below on the YouTube channel, and then we'll also have a link in it on the other podcast platforms that we use.
That's right. You got to make fitness fun, take the monotony out of it, and make it to where when you're done, you don't even realize you just worked out, other than the fact that your tongue's on the floor. I just like to hit it hard, and I enjoy it when other people do. But obviously, when you're a beginner, you got to work to that level, and I think that's the fun of it is distracting from the pains and enjoying the gains. I just coined that.
Distract the pains and enjoy the gains. That's a T-shirt, Scott. You should wear it when we're in the ocean running from sharks or swimming away from sharks. It's been a blast, bud. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks. It was good. I love it. And I look forward to it again.
Likewise. Well, you'll be back on. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Say that again.
I said good luck in all the future podcasts because they've been great so far, and I know they're going to be awesome. And I know everyone's learning every time. They're learning something new, and it's fun. I just watched that PRS one, and I have the PRS, and I learned so much. It was incredible. So thank you also just for doing this.
I really appreciate it. I'm having fun doing it. I can't wait for the whole year. I'm excited because there's a lot of cool people I want to come on this show. I want you to be back. We're going to have more to talk about next time. And you actually have been very patient in the growing pains of me getting better at this. Those of you who don't know, we shot this before. I like this one better. We delve a little deeper into things. It's certainly a lot longer podcast than we had the first time. But I like that because I think the longer we go, the more you get to learn how somebody truly is and their personality. And if you learn a lot about Scott, you will know that his character is truly one of a kind. He's definitely a man of his word and solid character. So, yeah, it's definitely a pleasure having you on, bud.
Well, I appreciate it. That means a lot.
Thanks a lot, Scott.
For sure.
Scott Poe,
bye, everyone.
Poetic Fitness, check him out. His Gmail again, poeticfitnessnc@gmail.com. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for listening, and we'll check you next time.
See you. Thank you so much.
All right, you Relentless Life listeners. I appreciate you being here. That is Scott Poe, Poetic Fitness. Again, check him out, poeticfitnessnc@gmail.com. We hit all these little goodies we talked about today. We talked about fitness. We talked about nutrition, his lifestyle, and veganism. We even talked about kombucha and how to make kombucha. That's interesting. I didn't personally expect to get into that, but that was fun. We went to a little bit of controversial things with politics and mask wearing. I want you to feel a little uncomfortable because the best way to grow is to be uncomfortable and to gather new information and learn new thoughts and ideas and challenge yourself. And that's what we did today, and I hope you enjoyed that. But most importantly, Scott and I are going to be swimming with sharks. You can't miss that, and we will definitely podcast probably before and then after that, so that'll be a blast too. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for all your support that you have been giving on these podcasts. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and share and give it to all your friends and family and loved ones so that they too can be a part of this podcast. That'll help us grow, but gives us a reason and more opportunity to reach more people. All right, guys, thanks for listening. Always remember, eat healthy, train hard, most especially have fun. I'm Relentless Jake. You remember, stay focused, stay dedicated, and I'll see your beautiful faces next week, next Monday. And I'm out.